Alright everybody, this is going to be the ultimate guide to creating sad guitar beats, all from scratch. In this case, we are going to be using FL Studio, but this obviously works for any DAW, so don't worry, all the principles are the same. Now, since this is a full guide, I will be breaking down everything in a step-by-step process. We're obviously going to start off with the melody, and then we're going to later break down the drums as well as the arrangement before we listen to the whole beat at the end. Now, with that being said, make sure you guys watch the entire video because it's going to be packed and filled with value. And I'm even going to show you guys some super cool tricks that you can do to really get a realistic sound out of your guitar that you guys probably have never ever seen before. So with all that being said, let's not waste any more time. Let's just jump right in. Alright, so we're now here in FL Studio 21. As you guys can see, it's pretty much just a blank FL Studio file. I just have a couple things loaded up, which I will be breaking down a little bit later. But the first thing is, we just need a pretty much a blank slate right here, and then we need to adjust the BPM. Now in this case, it's just a 140 standard tempo right there. But since we are going for more of a sad vibe, I also want to lower the tempo a little bit. So you can go for something in between 110 to 125. Let's just go with 110 in this case. And from here we want to open up our first instrument. Now we are making a sad guitar beat, so I obviously want to open up a guitar VST, and I have just loaded up this Kontakt bank right here. It's the picked acoustic guitar in Kontakt. I believe it's from Native Instruments, so you guys can use the same exact one if you want to. But since I have been making a lot of different beats, especially guitar beats, I highly recommend going for either an acoustic guitar or maybe even an electric guitar when you are going for more of a sad vibe. And then if you want more of a wavy type of style, I would recommend a nylon guitar. But to be fair, it doesn't really matter at all. Just go with whatever vibe you want to or whatever guitar you want. I just feel like for the vibe we're going for today, the picked acoustic guitar is really gonna do wonders. Now I just want to change the sound a little bit since it's actually not really the best sound out of the gate. If you guys take a listen, what I want to do is just go over to the presets right here, and I'm gonna pick the Latin pop preset. I feel like this one sounds way better. It already has a more emotional sound to it. Yeah, so as you guys can hear, it already is a way better sound. With this guitar, I also want to create something a little bit more interesting, so I have also opened up a couple string slaps right here. These I will try to leave a link to a free download below, so you guys can use the same exact ones if you like the sound of them, but I'm going to show you guys a cool trick you can do with these later on. So with all that being covered, it's time to open up the piano roll right here, and we're going to start laying down our guitar pattern. Now since we have opened up the piano roll right here, the first thing we want to do is obviously pick a scale. In this case, we already have F sharp minor selected. So let's actually just go for that scale right there, and then we can take it maybe a little bit more down or up later on. It doesn't really matter too much, but let's start off with using the F sharp minor scale. Now to get that sad guitar sound, it's actually very easy. So I'm going to break down everything super simple for you guys. Trust me, you don't have to overcomplicate stuff like this. It's really going to sound amazing as long as you follow these simple steps. So the main thing you want to do is just make sure to have a sad and emotional sounding chord progression, as well as not really using the half steps that are right next to each other inside of the scale. So what I mean by this, that you make sure that you have a little bit of space in between your notes, and just try to avoid using these notes that are right next to each other. These create a lot of tension, and we don't really want that when we're going for something more emotional. So try to leave a little bit of space like this right here. So the chord progression we're going to be using for this one is actually just by starting off on the root note, which is going to be F sharp, and we're just going to go down to the next note inside of the scale. So we're going to start on the F and then go down to the E, go down to the D right here, and then I'm going to show you guys a little bit of a switch up towards the end. But let us just focus on the first bar right here to start off with. So what we want to do is just think of this first bar and split it into two. So I want this first part to be something, and I want this second part to be something. So my idea to really get that emotional and sad vibe out of this guitar pattern is to actually leave this part right here open. I'm going to show you guys what I mean by this a bit later, but let's just start off with this first part. Don't overcomplicate it, just make a simple F sharp minor chord, and the way you do this is just by skipping the first highlighted note right there, putting a note right here, skipping this one, and putting a note right there. That's pretty much how you make a simple triad chord. From here, we just want to make sure to invert this middle note, so that just pitches this up by 1 octave. And from here, just move this a little bit to the side, like this. Right, that's perfect. As you guys can see, I left this open right here on purpose because what I want to do is have some sort of guitar slap hit right there, which is really going to give us that realistic sound. And this is also very, very typical of something that is super emotional. It's also going to give us a little bit more bounce, so that works perfectly. Now what we're going to do from here is pretty much do the same exact thing that we did right here. We're just going to start on the second bar and we're going to go down one in the scale. So like I said, we were starting on the F sharp. The next note down in the scale is actually this E5 right here. So let's just do the same exact thing. Skip this first highlighted note, place one right there, and just make another chord like this. Invert the middle note yet again, and just move these top two a little bit to the side. Yeah, that's pretty much perfect. We're really starting to nail that sad vibe. From here, we're gonna go over to the third bar, and then the fourth bar. Let's do the same thing again. Go over to the E. The next note in the scale downwards is going to be the D5. Again, just make a chord. So we're just skipping these notes and inverting the middle note while just moving these two to the side. So you guys can already see the pattern we're going for. So if you guys are following along, you're really going to nail down that emotional vibe. So these are the first three chords. Then we're really going to finish it off smoothly right here. And the way we're going to finish this last part is actually very simple. This is maybe the easiest part of the whole chord progression, and it's actually just to copy the same exact chord that we have over here, and then we're also going to copy this chord over towards the end. So I want this to be on the last section, but this time we're just going to stack all the notes together so we can have a little bit of a strumming type of sound towards the end right here. So what you want to make sure with this last chord is obviously to highlight all of them. Hit Alt and S on your keyboard so it's going to strum the whole chord. Again, it's going to give you that more realistic type of sound so they don't all clash at the same time. From here, the next important thing is just to make sure to adjust the velocity down here. So I'm just going to adjust it a little bit. It's going to help you get that realistic sound once again, but this is really crucial to kind of emphasize these last two chords. Since they are the same chord, we want to make sure that the velocity is a lot different. Yeah, so that is pretty much going to be our chord progression. We can just copy that over so we have it pasted for the whole 8 bars. And from here, I really want to add those string slaps so you guys can get a good idea of what sound we're going for. So like I showed you guys earlier, I have this string slap right here, so I'm just going to drag this into the piano roll. Or not the piano roll, but the playlist, sorry. I'm just going to zoom in and make sure to really nail this down right here where the guitars actually stop. So let's just have that hit right there, and then we're going to do the same thing for the second string slap. Like you guys see, I want them to be a little bit different sounding, so we don't have the same exact string slap on all 4 bars. That's going to make it a bit more unrealistic, so we want to make sure that they are sounding a little bit different, and then we're just going to copy that over for the next 2, and also so we have it for the whole thing. Now we're just going to lay this under our piano roll playlist right there and take a listen to how this really emphasizes the whole guitar pattern. Right, so that is sounding way better. Now obviously what we need to do now is add a few effects to the guitar so we can just enhance the whole sound. So I have the guitar on the first insert and the string slaps on the second insert. So let's start off with the guitar. The first thing we obviously need is going to be a reverb. I love using the Roam reverb, so let's just add this one to start off with. Putting it at about 17 to 18% is pretty much perfect. And I'm gonna do the same thing for the string slaps, but we want to make sure that the reverb is way less, so about 13%. From here we're opening up our C20 on the guitar using the Vinyl 3 preset, turning off the noise. Yeah, now we're really starting to get that smooth sound. Last thing we're going to do is just going to open up an EQ. That's perfect. Let's just EQ a little bit on the slaps as well. Yeah, that's smooth. Right, now that we have that main guitar pattern down, as you guys can see, it's actually very easy to really get a cool sound. What we want to do now is just start to complement that main guitar pattern. And to do this, the best way to really add some more emotion and depth to this whole thing is to add some sort of vocal. Now I know a lot of you guys have Arcade, so I think I'm just gonna load up Arcade in this case, and let's just try to find a vocal from the hook presets. Right, so the preset I went to was this On the Low preset, and I found this super smooth sounding vocal phrase right here. This is sounding super smooth, and it really adds that emotional vibe. I really love how this vocal sounds, especially together with the guitar. Once we add some effects to this, I want to try to do something cool towards the end as well. So I kind of have the vocal repeat right there. We're just actually gonna let the whole vocal phrase ride out. Now adding effects to the vocals are super essential. So I'm gonna give you guys the effects that I use for my vocals to really make sure that it blends nicely together with the whole sample. And it's really not something extraordinary. It's just a few simple effects. As long as you use them the right way, it's really gonna sound amazing. So the first thing you want to open up is going to be a reverb. This time we want to add a lot of reverb since we want that ambience to really fill out the whole atmosphere of your vocal sound. So 37% in this case is going to be nice. I'm going to lower the volume of the vocal though, so we can have it a bit in the background. Next, open up a RC20. From here, go over to the magnitude transition 1. This is really going to give you a blended out type of sound. From here, open up an EQ and really make sure to cut out a lot of the higher frequencies and the harsh frequencies you can find. I also want to try to compress this vocal a little bit since it has a few higher peaks a little bit later on throughout the vocal. Yeah, so now that second part isn't as harsh. It's sounding more like the first part. Last thing I'm going to do to this is actually open up a plugin called Pancake 2. This is a free plugin, so you guys can use this one as well if you want to. This is just going to make sure that the vocal pans from left to right. I'm going to switch this to 1 bar. Yeah, that is smooth right now. Now what I'm gonna do from here is just add a little bit of ear candy to this first. So inside of my Mirage multi-kit, if you guys haven't checked out this kit, it is on my website as well. But I actually have a whole texture kit inside of this kit, since it's obviously a lot of different kits all in one bundle. So inside of the texture kit, I'm actually just gonna find one that I think is gonna fit nicely to this. And we're just gonna add some sort of textured layer in the background of our whole sample, just so we can kind of build off of that atmosphere I was talking about earlier. Yeah, so I just dragged in this Birds by the Sea texture. It's just a bit of ear candy and atmosphere, like I said. Alright, the next thing we're going to do now is just try to fill out the sample a little bit more and just add those few adjustments here and there. So the thing I'm going to do is open up this LA Custom C7 piano from Omnisphere. It's the Keyscape piano, the softest preset right there. And pretty much what I'm going to do from here is just add a chord layer to our guitar. Like I said, we just want to fill it out a little bit more. So the thing I'm going to do is just kind of copy paste the chords from the guitar, but I'm just going to stack them all together and then strum them very easily. So what I mean by that is that I'm just using the same exact chords from our guitar. As you guys can see, they're all just stacked, and then just make sure to hit Alt and S to really strum those chords out nicely and get that realistic sound. And then from here we can also just play around with the keyboard if you want to add some more top notes. I'm also going to add an imager to the piano. and just widen out the sound. So right here I'm just messing around, like I said, with a couple top notes just to see if you can get a vibe out of it. Not something you have to do, but it can really add to the whole vibe of the sample. From here, let's also add this sound shifter to the vocal, and then we can just pitch the whole vocal sample down by 12 semitones. This is basically just pitching it down by 1 octave, so we can kind of differentiate in between a few parts, so we have the vocal a little bit tucked back down, and then we can have it in the normal octave or the scale as well. Right, the last thing I'm going to add to the sample are just a few bells. So I did find this cool little bell type of sound in Splice. It sounds like this right here. And I feel like I can really add this to the whole sample when the vocals are not really playing. So we can kind of tuck them in the back like this. Alright, so now that we have this sample finished, it's time that we add some drums. As for the drum sounds I'm using, they're of course coming from both the Motion Bundle kit as well as the Mirage Multi kit. So if you guys like any of the drum sounds you hear in this video, I highly recommend you guys check out the kit. It's pretty much all the drum sounds, the hi-hat midis, the melody midis, textures, portal bags, effects, everything that I use. It is really all inside of those kits right there. I pretty much don't use anything else except from those 2 kits. So make sure to check it out. Like I said, it is on BBMarko.com, or you guys can just click the first link down below. Now with that being said, let's start off by opening up a open hat folder right here and just have a short hitting open hat on the first hit so we can really start kicking those drums off. And then we have the claps as well. Just copy that over. Now we're starting to get that bounce going. As for the hi-hats, I'm actually going to just use a MIDI from my folder. Like I said, this is all in the kits, so let's just head over to the MIDI section right here and drag in one of these. Getting a super cool bounce with the hi-hats right now. A little bit more of a faster pace towards the beginning, and then we have it a bit slowed down towards the end. Right, so the next thing I'm going to do now is add those kicks, and I really want to keep these kicks super simple. Make sure you don't overcomplicate it when it comes to these sad guitar beats. You really want the whole flow to be from the guitar and the melody, and then for the drums they're just going to be very simple, just to add that extra little bit of bounce. So I'm going to place a kick right here. We're just going to do something very simple, maybe just a hit right here, and then we're going to start the bar over again right there in the middle. Something like this. I'm just gonna build off of that towards the second part. Yeah, something like this is gonna be smooth. And I'm just gonna layer this with an 808. And it's gonna have a super smooth, beautiful sound to it. Right, now that we have the beat finished, it's time that we arrange the whole thing. So as you guys can see here, we literally have all the elements from our whole beat. And what we're going to do from here is just kind of copy this whole thing over so we have a few more sections. And I want the intro to be pretty dry, no drums in the intro. We just want to build off of that melody. Alright, so for the intro, we're pretty much doing kind of a long thing. I just want the guitar to be there with the bells and the texture. So this is kind of going to be our intro. Just want it to be pretty dry right here, and then the piano as well as the vocal come in for the second part, and I've also added a bit of a sub bass. As you can hear, this sub bass really kind of adds that difference from the first section of the intro to the second one. And then from this bar on, we're just going to have a 16 bar hook, which is really going to punch through right there. No vocals on the first part of the hook. I just want the, yeah, right there, the second part to have the vocals. Then we're gonna copy that over for the verse section. Now I'm actually gonna delete the bells as well as the piano. And for this part, I'm gonna go back into the vocal, and this time I'm gonna turn on that sound shifter so we can have the pitch down version of the vocal on this first part of the verse. Now from here, just delay the drums a bit, remove the kick as well. So the second part of the verse is pretty much just going to be the same exact thing as the main part of the hook. And then from here, we're going to have a bit of a bridge. So let's just add that piano back in there. And we're not going to have any drums right here. I'm actually just going to add a low filter. So if you guys don't know how to do that, just make sure to have everything routed to the same insert. And then just add a fruity low filter. Go and right click this, select the simple triangle low pass. And from here, just play a little bit around with the settings and create another automation clip out of this. We're just going to have that for this section, which is really going to give us that water drowned out type of sound. That's pretty much perfect right there. I'm just going to adjust the volume a bit as well as the cut, so we really nail down a cool sound out of that bridge. From here we can just copy the hook back over. From here we can just copy paste the hook back in, and that's pretty much going to be it. With this, you also want to make sure to add a lot of different risers. So we should have a riser right here where the bass comes in, as well as a riser right before the drop, and a riser somewhere here in the verse and towards the bridge section. So the risers, I'm just going to go into either the Mirage Multi Kit or the Motion Bundle Kit. Pretty much just go with some standard risers. I'm not really going to overcomplicate it. So I have this main one which I really like to use. I'm going to add this right before the bass. Alright, so here we have the full beat. As you guys can hear, here's the simple intro that we talked about. Just slowly builds into things.
Shut up, Marko. Marko?
Here comes the bass. Here we have a lot of space for something like a pre-hook. Sub bass really adds depth to the whole sample. And then things really light off right here. So we have the bells in the hook. When the vocals are not there, then it really hits right here. Yeah, that's perfect. Verse come in. Pitch down that vocal. Delay the drums a bit. Main part of the verse. Like I said, pretty much the same thing as the first part of the hook. Here we have the bridge with the underwater type of sound. Slowly fades back in. Then it just drops back into the hook.